Good afternoon, everyone. This is Chris Saraga from the 365. I am up here at the Oroville Dam taking a look at the construction going on that you can see behind me. I've just had Matt and Christine from the DWR. They've taken us on a tour of the entire area and gave us unprecedented access, at least for me. What you will see following this is that in its entirety. It will be only edited together, nothing will be taken out. So if you guys have any questions or anything, hopefully I asked all the ones that I needed to from Matt. If you have anything extra, be sure to put those in the comments down below, and I will route those back to Matt or Christine and see if we can get them answered for you. As always, thank you for watching the 365. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. Bye.
Well, you've been in a lot of...
So Matt, can you explain what I'm looking at right there?
So right now, kind of the new highlights of what's going on is we're starting to place concrete in the chute. You're looking at what's called stay-in-place forms, and they are holding up the leveling concrete, those slabs that you're seeing coming down. That's not the finished surface. We're going to have some more concrete on top of it that'll be reinforced, and that'll ultimately be attached to the training poles that'll be at. So that's a foundation, if you will.
I can't believe how much has been taken away in such a short time.
Yeah, the contractor needed a lot of access points for the different elevations throughout the whole chute, and so you can see they've made multiple crane pads. There's lots of laydown areas, parking areas. We have the rock crushing plant that's attached to the RCC, the roller compacted concrete plant up here on the top.
That's right.
And
in
so
the center of the screen.
Yep. And way up above, you can see that there's more demolition that's happening up at the top, and they'll be working on the same type of technique down here with the stay-in-place forms, anchoring it down. A lot of work going on. There's a lot of different crews that are working simultaneously.
There is a lot to see. That's the old spoil pile.
Yep. So they're actually hauling that material over to the rock crusher to process it. So it gets the gravel, the aggregate, mixes. So we're reusing it.
Right.
The waste product is then used for roads. So they're using to continue to upkeep roads. So they're using all of it.
It does.
Yeah, all those access roads and access points just really, it required to grub the hillside. It actually looks very similar to the original construction.
Yeah,
photos.
yeah,
it used to be really clear cut, just like that.
Very tall and deep, and the process between the spillway itself and the sidewall, there was no way to get access vehicles or equipment down into the spillway chute. So most of the mobilization has been creating those access points in those road areas to get access to all the
And also, to be clear, Chris, the dentates at the bottom, what some people refer to as the dragon's teeth, they're going to remain intact, and at the end of next construction season, we'll go in and we'll fix up their surface, they'll clean them up, and then they'll resurface the outside of them. They'll add grout if they need to, or however they'll do it. So that structure, that very bottom structure, will remain as it's pretty stout.
I was amazed at the scale of those. I don't know if you can see it on this video, everyone, but if you can see, there's a little bin toilet right next to one of those. What did you call those?
They're called dentates.
Dentates.
Energy dissipators.
Right next to one of the energy dissipators. And that should give you the scale of how enormous those are. How big are each of those? You know?
They're almost 30 feet tall, and I believe nearly as wide. It's like a 3-story building.
Yeah. Just pure concrete, right?
Yeah. Concrete rebar.
So much to see. So is that a core driller up there near the American flag?
Yes, just to the left of that. There's actually 2 drill rigs up there. There's another smaller one that's a little bit yellow, close to the towers to the left of that big one that you can see out there in the open.
Oh, okay.
But it's referred to as a BG-50, and it is a really, really big drill rig. They're actually that's for the Seekit wall, and we'll get some better shots of that at the top.
Okay.
And it drills 3 foot cylinders straight down in the earth, up to about 100 feet deep is probably about the limits of that machine.
Boy, you almost lose the scale.
Oh, it's enormous.
Because if that thing's drilling a 3-foot hole, that makes that hole at least that big around, right?
Big tower.
Are you still amazed when you come out here, Matt?
Yeah, it changes so much every time. I mean, you know, just like we discussed kind of coming in, you see the power line work and everything else that's going on, and there's just a ton of work. It's a beautiful morning too.
It is. It's perfect for it.
Good light for you guys.
I'm just dying not being able to throw a drone up there and just go straight up at about 200 feet. You can just see the whole thing.
This is why we are concerned about a
Yes.
public platform. It's scary.
I do want you guys to know that that's why. I mean,
That's right.
we want it bad.
There we go. Well, first, tell everybody who you are, Matt.
I'm Matt Murray. I'm a local resident. I'm an engineer here at the Oroville Field Division for the Department of Water Resources. I've been brought on as a liaison officer, or a community liaison to Oroville and to the other communities nearby as a result of the Spillway incident, trying to pass information along and provide some access to the critical elected people and some press if we can get them in here.
And so I was just going to ask you a question about access after the fact. So do you know if once they're done doing construction, will the public be able to come back along Ordam Boulevard and do these trails that we're on, which is the Dan Beebe Trail? Is that what we're on right now?
Yeah, the Dan Beebe Trail and the Brad Freeman Trail run in this area, and they'll both be back available to the public when the job site is complete, and when we have everything kind of buttoned up over here where it's safe for people to come over. If it's determined that it's safe, we can get people in here before then we'll open it as soon as we can.
And safety is the issue why it's not open now, right?
Exactly. So right now there's a lot of power line work that's going on the road above us. We just came across that road, and you guys were just standing on the side of it and had a million trucks go by.
Right.
So you can see it's a really active site. We don't want to have people coming up here with their kids that are that could potentially go out of that traffic, or even anybody that's not paying attention. It's obviously a really impressive site, and people are going to be distracted, and we don't want traffic on pedestrian collisions happening up above us. So.
All right. Thank you.
We actually went. I went personally myself.
Okay, Matt. So we're down at the base of the spillway. Can you point out to the viewers what we're looking at?
Okay, so I think some of the most obvious and interesting parts of this right now is we're building now. So we actually have some of the foundation that's going in with the structure, the lower section of the chute. The bottom 300 feet is going to be replaced and built with a leveling concrete as a foundation, and then ultimately it's going to be reinforced concrete that will kind of create a sleeve or a hardened surface over the top of that. So right now you're looking at the foundation. Recently, and I don't know if we can see it from this angle, but they're beginning to deliver some of the roller compacted concrete. So that's a significant milestone that we're building up that big crevice that's in the center. That has to be built up with roller compacted concrete.
How big is that hole for frame of reference? It doesn't have to be numbers, just some kind of frame of reference.
So originally the hole was somewhere in the magnitude of about 130 feet wide by maybe 30 or 40 feet deep. I think that was kind of the statistics when we first turned the spillway off. And then it grew to what you see here today, which was something of the magnitude, including all of the side over here where the new canyon was created, of about 1.7 million cubic yards of material.
Wow.
For perspective, you can see over here on this big huge spoil pile, that's about 1 million cubic yards right now. So we've been removing all the material from the channel that came down and that's one of the primary spoil piles.
Okay, so what else are we looking at?
So you can see all the cranes that are up here. The cranes are doing a variety of different tasks. One of the things that they do that's very important is they deliver concrete. So they have a bucket attachment on some of them, but they actually will bucket in concrete that then's delivered, and there's a worker at the bottom that I can actually, move that cord around it and actually put it into place. Some of the other work is way up at the very top, just on the skyline. You can see that there's another concrete pumper up there, and so they're starting to work on that upper section. They've been demolishing that section. We have some more demolition that's got to continue up there. There'll be some blasts, to finish blowing up that that upper chute. We're going to take another 240 feet up of the original line that we had. We originally thought we were going to leave about 1,000 feet, but Kiewit and DWR were looking at it, and based on schedule, we wanted to, and we effectively can get another 240 feet done this year. So we want to make sure we get that done this year, instead of pushing it off to next year.
So you're doing more than what you thought you could.
Yeah. So they're gonna begin or continue working up there, and we'll rebuild that upper section of the chute. We're gonna leave the top. It's a little over 750 feet. We're going to leave that all the way up to the spillway gates. We're going to reinforce it and tie it down and clean up some of the cracks and things that we can find, and secure it for this next season. And that'll be part of the replacement of next year.
Okay, what is that cylindrical plant up there?
Okay, so up here you can see multiple what they're called silos, and they're holding up dry product for creating concrete. So Portland cement and fly ash are the primary ingredients. Then you can see next to that there's big huge piles of gravel, and we actually have a rock crusher up there that's processing all the material on site. It's re-crushing the material you just saw at that stockpile we were just pointing at. They're hauling it over here, crushing it, and then they're using that in that concrete plant. Now that concrete plant is what we're calling the roller compacted concrete plant,
okay.
And that's what's going to primarily deliver. You can see how close it is in relation to the hole. It's going to deliver most of that concrete itself. There is a second concrete plant up at the top, and that will be working more on structural concrete and reinforced concrete. It has a different mixed design. We want to keep these things separate so they can work as fast as they can.
And you were telling me earlier about how many hours it took to put both those plants in?
Yeah, so the plant at the top is actually a refrigerated plant, and they have a very specific temperature requirement that we have at delivering the concrete. And so that's a really complicated plant. We'll get some shots of it. You'll be able to see it and zoom in up on the top. But that one was over 5,000 hours of work that was put into that from labor. And this plant up here is another 3,000 plus hours also. So it's just, that's part of what Kiewit has been doing. We weren't building, we were demolishing. We're creating all these access points because they need to be able to get in here to meet our timeline.
Right. So, and then you also were talking about the diversion pool here, about getting that there's still contractors taking material out of there?
Yes, so there's what we're calling a dredging contract. They're pulling and dredging the bottom of this and removing as much material as we can. Chris, you're going to zoom over and you'll be able to see just at the edge of our view, we can see there's a couple of barges, and there's an excavator on those barges, and they're removing material. They're putting it on a barge that just is made to just kind of ferry the material to the shore, and then they offload it and they bring it back out. And so that contract was awarded to Dutra, and they're going to continue dredging this channel out in the silt that's in the diversion pool right now. So you can see that excavator right now is just getting going again.
All right. And so what we're looking at there is what was initially in the channel there, right? That's the spoil pile, is that
yes,
what you
we call it a spoil pile or a stockpile.
Stockpile, okay. And then we can't see it from here, but there was a drilling equipment up there too, right?
Yeah, I don't think we can. It's right in the way of the trees right there. You can kind of see it. But there's a big drill. We'll show the secant pile wall drill that's up there at the very top.
Okay.
We'll go up there shortly.
All right. Thank you. Oh yeah.
And so what we'll do is, if you guys want me to stop, we can stop. Oh, your doohickey?
Yeah, that's okay.
Does it take
Special
regulars?
one. No,
Or
it takes a special one. Yeah. That's all right.
Next time, get one that takes double A's.
That's right. So Matt, what are we looking at right here?
Right in front of us, you can see these big power lines. These are a temporary fix for the towers that were jeopardized during the emergency that we had at the spillway.
Okay, and we are overlooking the main spillway gate. Is that correct?
Yep, this is the spillway gate structure right here. Really, we're not planning on doing any work on that facility. It's been intact. It wasn't part of the emergency damage that was received. However, we are monitoring the entire structure for any changes because we're using the bridge quite a bit for deliveries for the contractor, and so they actually have traffic control on both sides to limit who's on there at the same time.
Okay.
Things like that.
And then that's the drill equipment you were mentioning earlier, right?
Yeah, and we're gonna go out right to the end of that point. You'll be able
okay.
to see it quite a bit better. So
Yeah.
there's two drill rigs. You can see both of them right there. There's a little one that was able to be installed and brought on site faster, and so they were already using it while they've been putting together the BG50. It's a big gigantic drill rig. So.
Just to orient everybody, so that is Table Mountain in the background, right?
Yep.
And then as we go this way,
Right about in there would be the O. You could see it from the
yeah.
right side.
And then that's the after bay or forebay there. I always get those backwards.
Way out in the distance.
Way out in the bit. This is the after bay. And then right in the center of the screen now is a set of buttes.
Bottom of your screen is
Okay. Actually get in on that a little bit for everyone. There you go. Oh yeah, lost equipment would be a major catastrophe, right?
No, we don't want anything. Nothing like
Slow.
that. Nothing to slow us
Can't
down.
have anything slow it
No.
down, right? Just kind of pan back over this way. I might get everybody in the sun here. There we go. And that is Kelly Ridge in the distance. Okay, so Matt, what are we looking at right here?
Well, this is the upper spillway chute, and Kiewit is using. This is a nice clean area to store a lot of materials. Again, you can see all the rebar mats that are going to be later used. They start tying those things off and they're delivered in that,
Oh
in
yeah,
that form.
let's be sure to show the rebar.
That's a fraction of what we're going to be seeing in totality. But, there's a crane in the center that's moving things around as needed. Again, we're demolishing up there, so if you just pan up to the top, you can see those red machines. Those are drill rigs that are actually drilling. The drilling sections to later be blasted. So you can see there's little circular marks along it. They're drilling out all those holes. They'll put in small charges, and they call it small charge controlled blasting. And so that's the demolition of that chute. It's going to come up a little bit further, and then at that point, I think up in front of that a little bit is where the end of the demolition will be. You can kind of see a gray line where they've socked at the concrete. So that will be the end of the demolition.
Right in front of the crane?
Yep, you're right on the other side of the crane. And so from that point forward, it will all be replaced this year. The section closer to us will remain until next year to be removed and replaced.
And it's going to be replaced all the way to
the gate structure.
To the gate structure,
yep,
just down below.
The chute will be, the entire chute will be replaced.
Okay. And then across the way, you were saying earlier, that's where PG&E is going to reroute the power?
So PG&E has already rerouted their power line. There's a small tower set that's up there. They had some towers that are right in the alignment of the emergency spillway flow, so they had to pull their towers in an emergency. We had to do the same thing up here closer to us. There's towers that actually went right across the spillway right in front of us. And so we're going to be moving our towers for the power that comes out of Hyatt Power Plant. And we're going to route it around all of the outflow from the spillways, so that if we ever had an issue in the future, we would never be jeopardizing the power lines at the same time. We don't want to have two problems at the same time if we ever have one.
And that's what those lines right there are. Right? That's the temporary.
That's a temporary fix. The long-term fix is going to go over there on that far side of the mountain where they clear a lot of the trees and the grub mountainside. And it'll come down here back right about where your view is. It'll jump back across the diversion pool and then connect back to the old alignment and then carry out.
So essentially just make a circle around the outflow of this chute.
Yes. Just bypass the whole area. We don't want to be connected to it anymore with power and water.
Right.
Same area. Good for people to see this on the news to show that the structure here looks exactly like it did when we started, really.
Yeah.
This is the inlet to the spillway chute.
You can see we're almost
Okay, this is
100
the
feet
inlet to the
below
spillway,
below
and
that
there's
900
nothing
mark.
Yep.
that have changed.
So the water right now is about 100 feet below the high water mark. That's what you're looking
Okay.
at over there
So
when you
the
look at the
water is
shoreline.
about-
What is the elevation right now? Do
I
you
think
guys
the elevation is about 805,
804.
805.
You
and
guys
so
have
the top of
kept it that way for
the
long,
top is 901.
right?
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was
You
that,
guys
sorry?
have kept it that way for long.
Yes,
I
it's
wanna-
been pretty
is that
stable
straight?
around 810, at 815 to 810, and it's going to begin to drop. There's requirements for environmental and for deliveries for the water users for this water.
We're ramping up the outflow,
and
and
we're-
that will
yep.
start bringing the level down a lot more rapidly than you can see.
Yeah, it's probably going to start coming down. It'll start probably half a foot to a foot a day, and we may see it go as much as about 2 feet a day. But again, all of those uses for that water, this is normal for this time of the year. Uses for that water, it's all being used. It's not just being wasted. There are beneficial uses for all of that water. We're not just draining the lake to drain the lake. It actually, all that water is being utilized. So just to make that clear for the public.
It's also safe for the construction.
That's
right?
correct. We hope that we can depend on the Hyatt power plant to get us through long into the next season.
Yeah, that's the anticipation. You know, we only have to use the spillway. You saw the graphic at the meeting the other
Right.
day, and I actually saw you reshared that last
Yes.
night on your site.
Oh, I like I
that-
reposted that too.
That we use the spillway about every other year on average. So every you know, within a couple year period, we'll use it. And the amount that we put down it is obviously based on the rainwater, but there's, you know, we're hoping that we don't have to use the spillway this year, just because we do know that we're going to have a limited size,
Right.
or a limited outflow capability for the spillway. So we're going to have to reserve more water in the lake as
Right.
well. That'll be part of that plan, is to make sure we have a bigger buffer.
So it's about 10:30 now, Matt. Are you?
Yeah, this is the focus I was going to talk about over here.
Yeah.
There's the famous or infamous emergency spillway.
And you can also see the depth of that scour hole, and you can fully break the study of how much water
Yeah.
So what I want to emphasize here is this structure was surveyed afterward. We have markers. It's surveyed every year, the emergency spillway. We've actually got a marker right there. You can see that's a survey marker.
Okay.
You see that little pock mark. So there's a series of those all the way across, and this actual tower right behind you is where they set the gun to measure that, so that it's consistent every year.
Okay.
So I say the gun, that's a survey,
Right.
a meter,
It's like
if you will.
it's be a drill like a thing.
No,
Topper?
it's a what do you call it? It's a total station is what they call it.
Okay.
Oh, we have one of those at work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that tells them how straight the alignment still is, as well as if it's gone up or down. And there's been absolutely no change after the event. We never had any movement of this structure from previous year's recordings. So the structure is still intact, just to give some, just to let people know that we didn't have any issues with that structure as far as movement on it, even as a result of the emergency.
Yeah.
So I'll talk a little bit about where that emergency was.
Okay.
So if you look out here, we obviously have the big kind of pit hole, or whatever you want to call it, right here close to us. But the actual scour that was eroding towards the structure that ultimately caused the evacuation for the area was that little finger that goes up right there, that one that's just on the edge of where the concrete's being poured. And so right now, if you can imagine, it went right underneath where the road has now been put, and right about where that pile of gravel is about how close it was. And right where we're standing is where a monitor was sitting here with binoculars, and his job was to watch the erosion, see if anything changed. And he had watched all of a sudden a huge erosion kind of burst over the course of about an hour. The erosion moved at about 30 feet per hour, and it was only about 30 feet from the structure by the time that was actually analyzed and calculated. So that's the information that safety of Oroville and for the downstream community to evacuate. So that's just showing you kind of where that actually played out, so you guys have some more awareness. Way off in the distance, maybe I'll talk a little bit about the plant. That is a concrete plant over there. It's actually a refrigerated concrete plant, so they have the ability to cool all of the materials and the actual produced concrete down to the appropriate levels for the specifications. The contractor has to meet those specs, otherwise that concrete will be refused and they'll have to, you know, eliminate it. So it's in the contractor wants to make sure that they can deliver it per specification.
And explain to everyone what roller compacted concrete is, since I didn't know myself.
Okay, so roller compacted concrete, that's actually referring to the plant that we showed below earlier on one of your other videos. That plant delivers concrete that is a really dry mix, and it's so dry it doesn't have what's called slump. And you can, if you put it on the ground, it would just stand up. So it's just really heavy in aggregates and sand and the cement mixture. Now, when we actually put that in, we dump it with a dump truck. It's not in the traditional rolling truck that you see, you know, going from a traditional plant like at Matthews here in town. Instead, they actually end dump it into a hole or onto whatever surface they're trying to put it on, and then they roll it in with compactors. So similar to what you see like a steamroller, or that's kind of the typical term people are used to. They'll actually roll it right into place, and they have to meet a compaction requirement for that.
You put rocks first?
And
they do not. There's actually aggregate or rock in it, in the mixture, and so that's all part of it as it's mashed together and smushed into place. So.
And did you said earlier what the number of compaction was, the percentage?
It was 98%, I believe, is what the specification requires for, and that's really kind of about as high as you typically require any compaction. So.
Awesome.
This plant back over here, though, is actually going to be producing structural concrete, so it's going to be making your more traditional concrete that we're used to seeing out of, for instance, Matthews that I just spoke about. And so, you know, that will actually be used in, you know, in concurrence with the rebar that we're putting in place for reinforcement. So you can see over there that there's a couple of silos. So those silos are actually to shade the rocks. There's actually a stockpile of gravel underneath those big white kind of buildings that you see. And then there's sprinklers over the top of those to try to keep the aggregates cold. So just for perspective, that's how much effort has to go into meeting those temperature requirements. If we left it out here in the 110 degree sun baking, it'd be really tricky to get it brought back down to temperature. So they also have refrigeration units, you know, traditional refrigeration units, large scale, obviously, and then they even have backup options that would take you all the way down, I believe, to liquid nitrogen if they need to use it. So there's tanks for that over there as well.
That's what the large thin tower is.
So, and then to the right of the plant, you can see quite a few buildings. They look like boxes, but those are actual temporary construction buildings for housing all the administrative needs for Kiewit, as well as the Department of Water Resources and our other subcontractors. So there's a whole, what we call the village, is over there, and that's even where my own office is now.
Regulating agencies too, Army Corps of Engineers,
Yeah, Army Corps of
DSMD,
Engineers,
FERC, and many of the subcontractors are also housed in this facility. And this is the Spillway boat
yeah, that's
launch.
the old Spillway boat ramp parking lot. So.
And that's going to be occupied for a couple years, right?
Yeah, so right now the plan is for about 2 years we're going to be over at that site, and then we'll evaluate what we need to do next, or if we need to do anything else, and then we'll either demobilize or we'll use it as a base if we need to. So just depends on what the future construction needs are going to be. Why don't I talk about the secant wall a little bit over here?
Yeah.
So a secant wall is really just an underground concrete wall, and what it is, if you look, you can see there's cones and kind of it's going to look like a gray line in the camera. That's actually the alignment of the secant wall right now. And the yellow drill rig that you see up there at the far right, that guy's lined up right over the top of it. And he's drilling down. They're going to drill about 35 to 65 feet down, depending on where they're at, to reach bedrock. And then through bedrock a little ways, it has to be seated into the bedrock as a key foundation for that wall. And then they'll drill right next to it. They'll actually overlap the drill hole just a little bit over the top of that to make sure that it's a consistent wall all the way through. And they'll do that all the way across 1,450 feet across from where they're at there. That's pretty close to the end of it on that side, and it'll come all the way to the far left down here right below us. So
All the way to
farther. It'll cover the entire side anywhere we want.
so.
Right about the
Oh, okay. Oh, so they're just starting.
just starting. So that will start moving pretty quickly though. They'll drill a couple holes a day, probably. So there's the big drill right next to the big green drill.
Right.
So that's the next one.
It's going from,
So once he gets in there, he goes a little faster. He's a big drill bit.
so he's right from right about there all the way just past the parking lot.
Yep. That road.
They're gonna go over it.
So what that seeping wall does is it prevents if there was eventually, rather than concrete in the hillside all the way down to the water,
Right.
instead of doing that just because it's going to be so environmentally impactful, we wanted to stop it up here, and we'll use this entire section between the seeping wall and back up here to the emergency spillway will be backfilled with concrete, the roller compacted concrete. So this will be roller compacted concrete. We'll fill all of this up and it'll be a fairly smooth apron transitioning all the way down to the bottom. Sorry for my hands getting on your video.
No problem.
Yep.
And now,
This material right here is actually going to have to all get chipped up, removed.
Oh,
and then
really?
We'll fill that back in with roller compacted so that it's a consistent fill and mix.
that makes sense.
So there's sections of this that are, over 10, 15 feet deep of what we call the glue that's holding in all these giant
Yeah.
boulders everyone remembers coming through here in February as an emergency precaution.
So all that has to get taken out?
Yeah, all that has to
wow.
get taken out because we put that in so fast that we weren't
Right.
we weren't monitoring the quality control on that. We want to make sure that we have a really known product and delivery method for the entire project. So yeah, we want to make sure that it's safe. Absolutely.
Wow, that's a lot of concrete to remove too. What
Yeah.
happens to the stuff you take out? Is that also going to be reused?
I don't know if they can reuse this stuff. I haven't heard if this is going to be reusable material or not.
Okay.
So they'll crush it if they have to and use it for road base or whatever else they can do. We'll do whatever we can.
You'll
with
find
it.
a use,
Yeah, we'll
right?
find a use. That's a key. What's really been good with right now is there's lots of roads and access and lay down areas and platforms that we have access to. So just so everyone's clear, this year we'll have the seeking wall pile. All those piles will be done, but we will not be finished with the armory between here and the seeking wall. There's just not enough time to do both.
And there's no intention on using this pretty much ever again, right? I mean,
That
only
is-
if it.
We don't
Very,
want to
very
have an
clear.
emergency, and the purpose of the emergency spillway is an emergency.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's really the goal, is to operate it in a safe manner that doesn't create an emergency.
Yeah, so we'll look at operation of the lake and the controlled spillway, and we'll adjust with the Army Corps' recommendations as well. And then this should never hopefully be used except under the absolute most extreme emergency.
There you saw a water truck go by.
Yep.
The
Keep the dust,
mitigation is a constant effort that's going on out here. You can see how clear the air is. There's definitely 100% concern on making sure that we manage that dust and making sure that we're operating, I think, 6 to 8 water trucks a day throughout the site, making sure that we're managing the dust and making sure there's no migrant dust at all from the site.
It is really clear.
Very clear.
Yeah.
And there's also air monitors throughout the site, monitoring and double checking all that as well.
Matt showed us one down below, right? Is there any around here that you can show somebody?
There actually is. I gotta remember
They're
where
kind
it
of
is.
skinny, so
Yeah, these are monitoring wells that are right below us that are actually monitoring to make sure that there's no seepage going underneath this structure. So that's one of they're actually called a piezometer.
A piezometer.
Yeah,
Okay,
piezometer.
that's what that.
So that's what a couple of
That's what I'm
those.
focused on right now.
So that's what a couple of those are. There are holes that are drilled down. And they actually can measure water levels if there's any change. And so ultimately, if you drill down anywhere
Right.
in the earth, you eventually hit water somewhere, right? And so the idea here is just to monitor that and make sure that there's no changes. So that's what those little devices are right there. And then there is an air monitoring station, but I just don't think we can see it. I want to say it's right on the other side of the concrete trucks over there.
Yeah, they're really skinny, so it's hard to see from a distance.
Yeah.
They fade into the background.
There is a lot of activity.
Yes.
Right, I mean,
I would tell Terry it's an orchestra.
yeah.
There's every single piece of equipment is being managed,
Walk over to the
facilitated.
when we drive
they
back
work
on it.
together to make sure we don't get in each other's way.
We'll just stop to the side. You guys can pop out.
It's a big job, and there's a lot of
Yes.
coordination and a lot of cooperation going on with all the different activities. And as you can see, staying out of the way is the stuff that we can do, because those, you can see the scale even of the
Yeah.
car
Mhm.
compared to the trucks. So it's imperative that. And most of these haul roads and most of the passenger roads are kind of off limits unless it's necessary. We have geologists and environmental monitors and things that do go out down on the site, but otherwise we all kind of stay away. would give
Yes.
them everything they need
Yeah.
to get the job done.
When you see 20 cars go by in a minute, you understand.
Other thing that's really interesting too with the coordination is all of the roads are being rerouted and as they need it, and they have flaggers and safety monitors in managing the flow of traffic in all of these different areas. So sometimes they're one-way traffic for trucks, and sometimes they turn it around and they have it other way traffic for activity, and they manage those by moving flaggers and creating safety zones in all of these road activities to make sure that the haul routes are never impeded and that everybody stays safe. So it's our job, you know, to watch for those flaggers and do it for safe.
Well, you just kind of missed the scale of how big the boulders that they were dropping in there were.
That's right. Yeah, you can still see a few of the helicopter bags across on the other side of the spillway, the white bags. You can still see some of those bags.
So that's a full-size diesel truck down there with actually kind of a long trailer.
That's right.
Boy,
So
I don't-
safety is number one, as you can imagine.
I don't know the camera can actually capture the
can't.
scale.
It's in your heart. That's the only place.
Yeah,
You know, it's like a canyon.
yeah. That's actually what it feels like. It feels like I'm standing on top of the Grand Canyon
Yes.
with them working on it.
Yes.
Is what it feels like to
Yes.
me. What a huge project.
What are those pipes up there? You see the pipes down there?
Oh, those are going to be. I'm sure those are going to be culverts that are used to go under the roads in certain areas.
One more view
If
of
they
the
need to do any drainage that I need to get.
emergency
either,
spillway.
Water lines like we're seeing below us, or even power lines, temporary power lines, whatever they need. Lots of no use culverts like that to put under the roads. Comes up in this line, and if you look straight below us, it actually comes up just right over the emergency spillway.
Oh
And
yeah.
they just plumbed it right over the top, and it goes over that
Oh,
way. And then
wow.
you can see the line going all the way
Yeah.
down the other side.
Goes
So
down in
that's
there.
what that is.
And then that is where they're drawing water for this whole project, straight from the lake. Oh, I can actually see the pump out there.
Yeah, the pump is on a float.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Out there. Very cool. So what are the plans after construction for rebuilding the environment around the dam? You guys know anything about that? I know you're an engineer, so that might not be your.
Yeah, so I haven't heard
There is-
I haven't heard what the environmental impacts are going to be ultimately, and what we're going to go back in and look at. But certainly that will be an effect of the project, and it'll be monitored and dealt with after we're done with the major construction.
The third phase of an incident is restoration.
Okay.
So right now we're in recovery. When restoration begins, that's when they are going to be replanting and reseeding and trying to restore the natural fluvial zones and the natural environment. So we had an opportunity to sit in the environmental trailer, and they gave us a little overview on what the ultimate plans are, what the future plans are, and how they intend to do that. But that's quite a ways down the road. Right now we're focused on recovery and tearing it up.
Right.
And we don't know what the limits of that are
But
going to be.
restoration is definitely the third and final phase of an incident. Is to try to put it back to whole as much as possible.
To whole to the way it was, or better than it was, or have you guys talked about
I
anything
think
like
it's
that?
I think it's a balancing act.
Some people is gonna think it's better. Some people.
That's a good
That's
point.
right. It's a balancing
In the eye of
act.
the beholder.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Basically, our number one. Okay.
No.
So our primary responsibility and priority at this time is to have the spillway ready by November 1. So all of our activities and all of these efforts that you see underway at this time is to ensure that we meet that deadline, and we have all of our facilities as that primary goal. We do care very much about the outlying projects and the other activities that need to be done in order to reach that restoration milestone. But at this time, we're on a time frame, and that's our 100% of our focus. So safety and achieving our goal of our critical path to November 1st to have this work done, ready for any storm that might come our way. So one of our priorities, main priorities, is safety, and this is one of the places that I would like to stop if we are on a site visit to remember all of the lives that were lost in the original construction of the Oroville Dam, and our goal is to not add to that list.
There has been no major accidents yet?
On site, for the construction, so far so good.
Good.
So we're going to hope to keep that immaculate record and keep pressing forward. It's one of Kiewit's #1 priorities, and one of the reasons why they were the most expert qualified contractor to be hired for this very critical
for their safety
job, for their safety record. Correct.
And this monument, what does it show?
It's a in memoriam of all of the men and women's lives that were lost in the original construction of the dam. Probably just men at that time, but
That she found. Right?
Here's the stats on the Oroville Dam.
Question. Trivia time. How many counties are in the state of California?
We are going to finish up with a view of the power plant from the top of the dam. We are actually almost in the center of the Oroville Dam right now, and this view should get you kind of a perspective of just how huge this project is. That's Table Mountain over in that direction. Get you a shot back along the dam here.